Grieving begins when the person whose death will vibrate through you is still alive and ringing. It begins on a lunch break when you can't make it across town to visit them and get back to work in time to earn your $20 an hour. It begins on a morning where everything is going wrong and you promise you'll go later to that wing that smells like disinfectant and is titled after some missionary who died so long ago, even the marble is forgetting their name. But you end up not having time, and there will never be a good time to stand on that threshold with sweaty hands, looking in on darkness that is now within one you love too. Grief grows behind your turned back like a child until it's so big and ugly you don't even recognise it as yours. You can't grieve publicly. You must grieve in the privacy of your own home, lest your grief contaminate passers-by and the whole world gets infected with grief and calls in sick and nothing gets done and the world stops turning from the black force of our grief and we realise that the war will finally destroy civilization will not be fought on the sea or in trenches but in the secrecy of the heart, a long and lonely war that has been waged approximately forever. Most of all, you must pretend your grief doesn't exist like a hefty bill you haven't opened yet. How come the sun can find time to travel 150 million kilometres each day to celebrate and grieve for itself, and you can't even drive across town to hold her hand, old and thin as the Salvation Army fabric she wears? You can't find time to go tell her it'll be all right, even though you both know it won't. And maybe she won't even be conscious. Maybe you'll pop over and she'll be asleep and you'll promise to come back and never come back. Your mind turns on what she sees and must be thinking every time she wakes up in that strange room she will die in. And suddenly there's tears on your steering wheel and you're shaking and you think you're having a heart attack and maybe you'll die. Maybe you'll die before her and you'll never have to go back to that facility that makes your soul feel like it's a small pool of water under a heat light. But you're not dying. Grief has just dawned over your planet and you pick up the phone and call in sick and finally go see her, and on that day she can give up fighting, and on that day she dies graciously right after you leave. She waits for your footsteps to echo out the building. The last conversation she'll have is just her consoling you. And the tears never end because they were there from the start and the sky is clear and on that day she dies.